I'm Sopath, and this is Spurs Review. Tottenham Hotspur was a dull letdown after expectation of Spurs' first ever Premier League victory at Wembley. Before we get into the game, Harry Kane again failed to score in August, and this curse played a vital role in today's match. Now, I know that Spurs fans are quite sick of hearing about the August curse, but it is relevant to today's game. This game was a massive letdown. Despite the draw, I think many Spurs fans would agree that it felt like a loss. Last week, a Chelsea team that lacked Hazard, Costa, Cahill, Fabregas, and managed only 2 shots on target, won 2-0. That was a very painful result. It felt like the only choice we had was to respond by crushing Burnley. Burnley have been in the Premier League for 3 of the last 4 seasons, but prior to 2009, their last stint in the top flight was in 1976. Needless to say, they are not a top dog in this league. Burnley should be a fairly easy opponent to defeat. Burnley's style of play today could best be described as Dustin Mano of Cartilage Free Captain put it, anti-football. A style of football that is used when you aren't striving to win, but simply striving not to lose. Take this still shot from the first half. Moussa Dembele carries the ball across the pitch onto Burnley's side, and then boom, anti-football strikes. In front of Dembele are 3 Spurs players and 10 Burnley players. Number 9, Sam Vokes, at the bottom of the screen is the only Burnley player behind Dembele. If you look all the way to the left of the screen, there are 6 Burnley players ahead of Dele Alli and Son, and 5 ahead of Kane, the furthest Spur up the pitch. This is perhaps the most effective and boring way a bad team can play in order not to concede a goal. In the first half, Tottenham had many shot attempts at Burnley's wall of meat, a total of 15, 4 of which missed, and the other 11 were blocked. Burnley blocked 11 shots in the first half. As you can imagine, Burnley had no shots on target either, which meant that going into halftime, there were 0 shots on target between the two teams. Second half began with a boost as Dele Alli recorded the first shot on target of the game, and it was a nice one as it found the back of the net. This earned Dele Alli's 30th Premier League goal. He's become one of only a handful of players to accomplish this prior to their 22nd birthday. Well done, and that's really the only major positive takeaway from this game, other than the fact that August is finally over. Before we discuss how this game ended, let's go over how the game opened up following this goal. Prior to the goal between the teams, there were 0 shots on target. Following the goal, Burnley slowly gave up their anti-football strategy, and so between the two teams, there were 7 shots on target. Tottenham looked their absolute best in this game in between the 73rd minute and the 78th minute. In this stretch, Tottenham would record 5 shots on target, including an unlucky close attempt from Dele Alli and 2 absolutely easy goals for a non-August Harry Kane. For all the blaming of a defender I'm about to do, I can't stress enough about how much of a letdown Kane was in this game, and frankly every August. I think because we're used to Kane's shit August by now, we're not really bothered by them, but if Kane just put the ball in the back of the net one time today on many of his chances, we wouldn't even be having this long segment about the breakdown. Now, the breakdown. Alright, so we're going to look at the moment where Burnley equalizes, and we're going to look at how this play completely fell apart. And so you'll have to forgive me, I'm just slow motioning this on YouTube, which is why the quality isn't so great. Let's continue. So it begins with Dembele kind of overrunning this a little bit, not being able to win this header, so it falls to the Burnley player. Now I'm going to pause this kind of in and out here, because I want to get this exact moment where Brady has the ball, and yeah, so right here is where I'd say it is. So in this moment you can see Kieran Trippier down at the bottom of the screen, he's looking at Brady at the top of the pitch. Now, I can't prove that he sees these 3 Burnley players at the bottom of the screen, but he's definitely seeing Brady, which leads me to believe that in his peripheral vision, he's at least picking up a few of these guys. Now, what you may notice here is that you really, in this moment, only have 2 Tottenham players on these 3 guys. Now, Eric Dyer and Jan Vertonghen are going to somewhat cut them off, and they're going to split up as the play develops. But in this moment, what's really important to understand is that Trippier is definitely seeing Brady, and judging by the fact that he's looking over in that general direction, one could assume that he sees these 3 players in his peripheral vision, but one cannot know this. Either way, this is a problem. So we're going to kind of pause and come out here. So we start to see right about here, Vertonghen's kind of moving away from the center. But with Vertonghen moving over to that area, because I think he's trying to cut off Brady, I'm not entirely sure what he's doing here. Spurs kind of lack concentration here, but this opening does leave Ashley Barnes kind of with an opening to charge the line with, which is why Eric Dyer is quickly moving into position to cut him off. So let us continue a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm going to pause this in and out again, and we're starting to notice something big here. So in this moment, every player on Spurs is looking at Brady, and they see that he's got someone. He's got a target in mind, and he's about to make a pass into the box. Keep in mind, we're like at the 92nd minute of the game. They are losing 1-0. Everyone knows they're about to pump it into the box. And now Spurs just have to defend it. And I think if they can defend this, it's pretty likely they'll just win the game. But I think it's clear that Alderweireld, Eric Dyer, perhaps even Jan Vertonghen think it's Ashley Barnes who's the main target. Certainly Alderweireld does. But what no one seems to see at the bottom of the screen, particularly Trippier, is that Chris Wood is completely unmarked. Letting this go forward, you will see when the ball is kicked, Alderweireld is running to cover Barnes, right? So he's looking to the right, and then he's immediately switching over. He notices that the ball is going left. He knows that the ball was never intended to hit Ashley Barnes, but entirely it was Chris Wood. The biggest problem here that makes me want to blame Trippier so much for this play is that you can see Trippier hasn't yet looked over left yet. Now, it's only just passed over him. But what this does show you is that Trippier is not even aware of Chris Wood's presence. So as this develops, he's noticed it too late. And Alderweireld gets so close to stopping this. But he is just a fraction too late. And a goal goes in the back of the net. And Spurs will draw 1-1 with Burnley. It's an absolute shitfest. Because it never should have happened, and it's frankly a joke. Is it all Trippier's fault? No. Nothing in a team sport of any kind is all one player's fault entirely. In those final moments of the game, Spurs were completely lacking concentration. In the 5 minutes leading up to this goal, Burnley had 3 shot attempts, 2 misses, and 1 on target. They were very threatening at the end of this game because the team had largely just taken off a bit on intensity levels, and also because Burnley was just frankly pumping into the box. Regardless, Trippier should have been aware of the player on his side of the pitch, and he completely let him run by unmarked, which led to the goal. So while yes, it isn't all of his fault, I'm not going to sit here and blame other players for something that Trippier should have been aware of. In conclusion, this 1-1 draw feels like a loss. Burnley lost 13 of their 19 away games last season. That's a 68.4% losing percentage. It's a real punch in the guts that a team like that was able to steal points away from Spurs in this game. Spurs drew 1-1 not because of Wembley, but simply because of a failure to penetrate Burnley's defense, Kane's lack of ability to score goals in August, and overall the defensive errors made in the final moments of the game because of a lack of concentration. Let's hope these errors are mostly just early season rust, and as the months continue, we tighten up. In the meantime, let's just enjoy the fact that Arsenal got clobbered.